Welcome to KRA's The Hub, the official podcast of KRA Corporation. And now get ready to hear workforce topics and trends you need to know on the go.
Hello and welcome back to the program. This is Doug Foresta. I'll be your moderator for today. I'm very excited about this special episode. We have two special guests with us, and I'll introduce them in just a moment. But the topic we're going to be talking about is the Virginia Workforce Symposium, which is coming up here in April. With me today, I have Tabitha Taylor, the Executive Director of the Crater Regional Workforce Development Board. Also joining me is Morgan Romeo. She is the Executive Director of the Greater Roanoke Workforce Development Board. Morgan and Tabitha, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. So why don't we start with, so the name of the event is the Virginia Workforce Symposium, correct? And it's coming up. Can you give us the date?
So it's coming up on April 15th.
And so let's talk a little bit. My understanding is that this is actually the first of its kind, right? This is the first conference you put on. Is that correct?
Yes, this will be our inaugural.
So this is either one of you can start on this one, but what made you decide to do this? What was the impetus behind starting a symposium, starting a conference?
So the Virginia Workforce Association is an organization that is made up of the 14 workforce development boards in Virginia. And we have been discussing a professional development opportunity for a few years now. And I think that we really felt like this was the time to create an environment that we could provide professional development, share best practices, learn from each other, and just provide that networking and connection to like-minded workforce professionals across the Commonwealth. So we're excited to host our inaugural event, and we've received so much positive feedback that we're excited that we think this is going to be an annual event going forward.
So that's great. Thank you so much. So I actually want to make sure before we continue, I want to make sure to let our listeners know that KRA is a silver sponsor at the event, and they're going to be exhibiting as well. So that's very exciting.
Yes, it is. We're excited to have them as a sponsor.
So let me ask you this about, being the first conference that you've put on. Tell us a little bit about, some of the challenges, the excitement about putting together a conference.
Yeah, the first challenge really for us was figuring out scale. And so we kind of set what we thought was a lofty goal of having 200 attendees. And we have actually sold out at 225 plus and have probably had another 50 plus people reach out after registration closed to inquire how they could attend. So I think there's been a need for something like this for Virginians who are in workforce development for some time. And so I think that was the first challenge, was kind of deciding scale. So one of the other things we wanted to consider was the fact that Virginia is a large state, like 9 hours from one end to the other. And we didn't want this just to be available to folks in the Richmond metro area or Northern Virginia, where things are a lot of times centralized. And so we very carefully picked Lynchburg, Virginia, and are thankful that they're hosting us and excited that it's kind of a good central meeting place for folks from all over the state of Virginia. So we're excited to have folks from all ends. And then I think the other challenge always is deciding how long you want it to be. We didn't want it to be too long where you start to lose folks who need to get back to work. And so we decided for this year, for the inaugural one, we were just going to do a 1 day. That way, if folks couldn't commit to overnight, they still would have the opportunity to come down and get going with some sharing of ideas and knowledge and spending time together with others who do the same things that they do every day.
Well, talk a little bit more about, you mentioned you didn't want it to be too long, or talk a little bit about the structure of the conference, how long it is, and, does it break out into keynotes? Can you say a little bit about what that looks like?
So we're excited about our event format because, as Tabitha said, we were planning for 1 day. And I think another thing that is a good problem to have, we had a hard time squeezing in everything that was proposed by our counterparts and our colleagues across the state. So we're going to open the event with a keynote speaker, Walter Simmons, who is the president and CEO of Prince George. Employee Prince George. And so he's going to kick us off. He's an energetic guy. We're hoping he's going to bring that same tenor that he usually brings to events and get us all pumped up for the day. And then we have 2 breakout sessions in the morning with workshops that were proposed by, again, our colleagues and our counterparts across the state and then a lunch panel that is going to give us some insight from Maryland and Pennsylvania, two of our neighboring states that we like to share best practices and stories with to see how we can improve things and what's working and what's not working. And then we'll close out the day with two more breakout sessions that folks can go to and attend based on their preference. And one of the great things that we saw throughout the organization of this is that we actually had to turn away folks who proposed workshops because we just had too many and didn't have enough space to squeeze them all in. So definitely something for us to consider next year to make sure that we can include everyone, because we've just had some great submissions and great proposals coming to us for this.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the, we obviously can't go into all of them, but just some of the types of workshops that people expect?
Yeah, absolutely. So we certainly we're trying to get a variety because not everything interests everyone. And the goal really of this symposium was to bring folks kind of from all levels of workforce development and all roles. And so we didn't want everything focused on case managers. We didn't want everything focused on management, on state staff versus partners, education partners, things like that. And so I know one of the sessions that we're really excited about is around information technology or AI, using data in those spaces to help inform decision making and planning as we look at employer needs. Another one that I'm really excited about personally is one that talks about the partnership between the local workforce boards and community action agencies here in the state of Virginia to really focus on cross-spreading funds, and that co-case management piece that we see is so effective for those that we serve. And there's tons more. So there's quite a few breakout rooms each time for folks to check out. And we're hopeful that there's going to be so many choices that folks are like, hey, we want the same thing next year when we come back, or we didn't get this itch scratch that we really wanted to see. And so that just ramps up people's excitement for future events.
Well, that's actually a good segue into the next question I was going to ask you, which is, what would success look like? What is your vision for what success looks like for this conference? What do you hope the outcome is? Sort of a follow-up.
Well, I think our first success that we were measuring is that the conferences or the symposium is sold out. So that's definitely number one. We were very surprised of how quickly it sold out. So we'll have over almost 250 folks there, kind of maxing out our capacity at our location. But in terms of the day, I think what we're looking for is really those connections between our workforce professionals across the Commonwealth. Workforce development has become such an interesting space to work in, especially as we went through COVID and are now, looking at some of the potential changes with the federal administration and navigating that together. And there's really only a few people across the state that can talk the way you talk and walk the way you walk when you work in this business. So we definitely are looking for those connections, making sure that folks are having opportunities to connect with folks that they can continue to communicate with after the event, share best practices, and just really feel like this is a community always trying to make the Commonwealth's workforce development programs better and brighter.
I love that. Now, I know that you're sold out. So, at this point, when people are listening to it, they're going to have to wait for next year's conference. However, can you say a little bit about who should attend this, right? Like, I know workforce development professionals, but does that mean, do I have to be client facing? Should I be in management? Does it matter?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. And I think we are very purposeful in choosing our workshops this year, and will be in future events, to make sure that there's a little piece of the pie for everybody. And I think that's one of the things that's beautiful about workforce development. When you think about a lot of other industries, they're pretty siloed, right? So the connection points that they have are with people that are in their same industry. And we are in a unique space where we have state agencies in our one-stop centers, and we have educational partners, whether it be the local level adult basic education partners or our community colleges and four-year universities. And then we have lots of other community-based organizations who are doing the important work of helping connect their clients to job opportunities. So the goal here really is to have all those people in the room together and to be able to ask questions that maybe typically we don't have a chance to ask each other, or to just kind of share I think best practices is one of the biggest things that I'm hoping comes out of this is some kind of light bulb moment for someone in an area where they've had a challenge or an issue come up and haven't been able to find a solution and are able to go into a session or talk with a colleague while they're there and be able to go back with that information to their local area and say, hey, here's something that's being done somewhere else in the Commonwealth. They've got a model for it. Maybe we can turn around and do something similar, or it's a starting off point to find something unique to really make an impact in their local communities.
Well, this is really exciting. And I want to make sure to mention that KRA is a silver sponsor and will also be exhibiting at the conference, which is also very exciting. I know, again, at this point, if someone's listening to this, you're going to have to wait till next year because it is sold out. However, if people want to learn more and just see what's going on, is there a place they can go to learn more about the conference?
Well, since we're doing this podcast, I think we can give you a little bit of first being in the first to know that we have already secured a date for next year's conference. We will be meeting at the Madison Hotel and Conference Center in Harrisonburg, which is going to let us amp up and increase our capacity a little bit since we've maxed out this location. And that will be April 20th and 21st of 2026. So mark your calendars there. And we have a LinkedIn page that you can check for updates, as well as any of the individual board websites or pages. We're constantly sharing things and making sure everybody's in the know. So save the date.
That's great. And we'll put those links in the show notes as well to make for folks. I've been speaking with Tabitha Taylor, Executive Director of the Greater Workforce Development Board, as well as Morgan Romeo, the Executive Director of the Greater Workforce Development Board. And of course, we've been talking about the Virginia Workforce Symposium, and we have a world scoop here about the second one next year. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much for all the work that you do. Thanks for joining us today, Morgan and Tabitha.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to KRA's The Hub. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. To learn more about KRA Corporation, visit www.kra.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back soon with a new episode.